The term blockbuster gets thrown around way too much in hockey, but this is a blockbuster. It's a 3-team trade if you count the Blackhawks, which you technically have to, but we'll get into it. It's technically a 3-team deal. Sort of wonder what the Blackhawks thought they were doing, but it is primarily between the Colorado Avalanche and Carolina Hurricanes. Here's the quick version. Both Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall are now Carolina Hurricanes. Yes, that Mikko Rantanen, actually. Martin Necas and Jack Drury are now members of the Colorado Avalanche, and there's some picks involved as well. The Blackhawks... So anyway, a 3-way deal can be complicated because it can be announced like this trade, then this trade, then this trade, and it's very confusing that way. Who's in and who's out for each team? Thank you to Puckpedia for putting this together. For the Carolina Hurricanes, in Mikko Rantanen at $4.625 million because the Blackhawks retained half, and Taylor Hall at his full $6 million cap hit and a 6th-round pick from the 2022 draft by the Chicago Blackhawks. His name is Niels Juntorp. Who do the Hurricanes lose? They lose Martin Necas and his $6.5 million cap hit. Jack Drury making $1.725. They lose a 2025 second rounder and a 2025 third rounder and a 2026 fourth. So the Hurricanes give up 3 picks there. All in all, the Hurricanes add $2.4 million to their salary cap in this deal. The Colorado Avalanche, in is Martin Necas at $6.5 million. In is Jack Drury, a 2nd-round pick from 2018 at $1.725 million, a 2025 2nd-round pick, and a 2026 fourth. So they get 2 of those 3 picks from Carolina. Out, Mikko Rantanen. Saved, $1.025 million. It's less than I thought. And the Blackhawks, who I've already made fun of a couple times in this video, they do actually get something. What they get is a 2025 3rd-round pick, and they retain $4.625 million on Mikko Rantanen. The cap space doesn't even really matter to them because their season is fully lost. What were they even saving the cap space for anyway? And speaking of which, out is Taylor Hall's $6 million cap hit and prospect Niels Juntorp. They actually save, because they get rid of Taylor Hall in this deal, $1.375 million, nearly $1.4 mil. We'll start with the Blackhawks because they're the easiest. They retain on Mikko Rantanen, yes, and people are looking at this like, why did they only get a 3rd-round pick for retaining over $4 million on Mikko Rantanen? That's terrible. Well, that's actually not true, because the Blackhawks get to have their cake and eat it too. It's just not a very big cake. By getting rid of Taylor Hall's contract in this trade, even though the Blackhawks retained on Mikko Rantanen, they save cap space in this one, nearly $1.4 million worth, and they were paid to do it. They got a 3rd-round pick, even though they save cap space. Taylor Hall is Taylor Hall. He's a name brand, right? He went 1st overall, but that was quite a long time ago. That was 2010. This season, in 46 games, he has 9 goals and 24 points, which is all right. It's fine. It's enough for him to be 5th in scoring on the Chicago Blackhawks, who are going nowhere so fast. Will he do better in Carolina? Yeah, that's my guess. But my guess is also that the Chicago Blackhawks probably had a lot of difficulty out there working the phones trying to find a taker for all $6 million of Taylor Hall. Could they have gotten more for him at the deadline? Maybe. Might the Blackhawks be able to use the cap space they gained? Maybe. They could add with that 3rd-rounder. They could just use it on account of they're a rebuilding team. They could move up with it. Like I said, with this deal, the Blackhawks get to have their cake and eat it too. It's just not a very big cake. It's a little bite. Hey, you want a bite of mine? It's fine. It's whatever. Now with Carolina and Colorado, it's a blockbuster between 2 teams that should be contenders, making deals with each other, trading huge swaths of their roster at each other. We'll get into the nuts and bolts of this, but you have Mikko Rantanen, one of the best forwards in the entire NHL. He is incredibly underrated. He is an absolute killer and a monster and diabolical. And make no mistake, far and away the best player in this deal, way by miles. He's over a point per game player over the course of his career. That's pretty good. But no, it doesn't really describe him at all, does it? In recent years, he's hit another gear. 92 points in 75 games the year Colorado won the Stanley Cup, followed by 105 points in a full 82 game season, followed by 104 points in 80. And this year, can't believe Colorado just traded this player. 25 goals, 64 points in 49 games. In Mikko Rantanen's first ever playoff with the Colorado Avalanche, he had 4 assists in 6 games. That was in 2018. That was the last time Mikko Rantanen scored less than a point per game in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The year Colorado won the Cup, he had just 5 goals, but 20 assists for 25 points in 20 games en route to winning the Stanley Cup. Oh, so he's a playmaker, right? Yeah, kinda, except the next season he scored 55 goals and followed that up with 42. All in all, he has 34 goals, 101 points in 81 Stanley Cup playoff games over the course of his career. That's why you get Mikko Rantanen. And you might look at the Colorado Avalanche and go, why the heck don't you want Mikko Rantanen? You know they're not looking at him going, can we win with this player? Yes, you can! You already did! Here's the thing. Mikko Rantanen is a pending unrestricted free agent this summer. Rumors have been flying for months now about this player. Talks aren't going well, rumors of that nature. You see, the Colorado Avalanche have Nathan MacKinnon. Nathan MacKinnon is one of the best players in the league. He's top 3 in most conversations. Nathan MacKinnon makes $12.6 million. It's tough to argue, hey, I should make more than Nathan MacKinnon. Here's the thing. Who cares if you're Mikko Rantanen? The cap is going up and up and up and up. And Leon Draisaitl just signed for $14 million before the news came that the cap was going to go up and up and up and up. Even though Leon Draisaitl's contract kicks in next year, there is a solid chance that Mikko Rantanen begins next season as the NHL's highest paid player. If you're the Colorado Avalanche, you have a decision to make. Do we keep this player and try to win a cup with him this year? Or do we cut bait now and get as much for him as we possibly can? Including guys who can help us now, guys who can help us a little later, and guys who can help us well into the future. Heck, if you're Colorado, those 2 draft picks that you got in this deal, the 2nd rounder and the 4th rounder, pitch them out the door. Pitch them out the door at the trade deadline, just like you did in 2022 when you ended up winning the Cup. The Avalanche basically didn't pick. The year they won the Stanley Cup at the draft, they just sat there for 2 days. They had, I think, a 6th rounder. You know what else they had? The Stanley Cup. Who cares? So even though you lose Mikko Rantanen, the best player in this deal, you gain a useful roster player in Jack Drury, who might get better with more ice time. You get Martin Necas, who was the hottest player in the NHL for the first month. He's cooled down a little bit. He's still probably going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 80, 100 points. And you get a couple very useful draft picks that you could pitch out the door in other deadline deals. Not to mention you free up a little bit of cap space, and you might need every dollar you can get because obviously you're going to try to acquire a player, or maybe you already got that player. Maybe it's Gabriel Landeskog coming off LTIR. In fact, let's have a look at that situation. Gabriel Landeskog, the captain of the Colorado Avalanche when they won the Stanley Cup, with knee injuries and everything, he basically hasn't played for like 3 years. Now, I've seen the comparison made between Landeskog trying to make an NHL comeback and Jonathan Toews trying to make an NHL comeback, and they are completely different. Jonathan Toews, stepped away from the sport to deal with a condition, and he's been traveling, and he's been trying to sort everything out. Gabriel Landeskog has been rehabbing an injury with an NHL team using NHL resources this entire time. Here's what the Colorado Avalanche did today, and you tell me if this makes them better or not. By the way, producer Drew is editing this video, and he's an Avs fan, and I know this video is killing him. From Puckpedia, for the Colorado Avalanche, they get Martin Necas at $6.5 million. That's really good value for how he's been performing this year, and that is $6.5 million for this season and next season. They also get Jack Drury, $1.725 million. He's been a useful player for the Hurricanes. He might have more in the tank there. Could be a middle 6 guy for you. A 2025 2nd rounder and a 2026 4th rounder. Out, obviously, Mikko Rantanen, $9.25 million. Net saved against the cap, $1.025 million. According to Puckpedia, the Avalanche now have $5.6 million in cap space remaining in LTIR, that's long-term injured reserve, they could have room to activate Landeskog by sending 2 players down. So the Avalanche are right there. And who knows, maybe there's a subsequent move to come that they don't even have to send those 2 players down. Who knows? Ultimately, do the Colorado Avalanche get better right now? Like, are they more likely to win a 7-game series today than they were yesterday? In my opinion, with what they got, no. Rantanen is insane. He is one of the more, like, it's impossible to call a player who has scored 55 goals. It feels impossible, a player who has scored 55 goals, over 100 points twice. He might do both of those things again this year. It seems impossible that player might be underrated, but he might be underrated. Granted, he's not going to get to play with Nathan MacKinnon anymore, and that, might affect his point totals negatively. But there's a reason they call him Moose. That being said, Necas is a pretty good player. Pretty good value. Jack Drury's a decent player, and he might have more to give. Might be decent value. A 2nd and a 4th can always get you some pretty decent guys at the trade deadline. It might even be able to get you 2. And if this is the sort of thing that allows you to bring Gabriel Landeskog back into the fold, who knows? Maybe you are better. By the time you get Landeskog back, maybe you are better. But if you're the Colorado Avalanche, you can't just think about this year. Besides, you've already made moves to improve this year. You went and got a starting goaltender for the future in Mackenzie Blackwood. You also got your backup in Scott Wedgwood. You acquired him in a trade. How do you build for the future? Acquire as much wood as possible. That's terrible. I don't apologize. So here's what you're looking at. You go into these playoffs, you have no guarantee anything goes your way. You might go all the way to the Stanley Cup final and you might win the thing. Yeah, you might. What are the odds? Western Conference final? You might. What are the odds? This isn't a criticism of the Colorado Avalanche because I think they're an incredible team. I think they're a really, really, really good team. But most teams, even the ones that load up, end up bowing out in the 1st or 2nd round. You never know who you're going to play. Last year, I could have easily seen the 2 best teams in the league being Dallas and Vegas. At very least, you could argue that could have been the Western Conference final. Instead, what happens? They play each other in the 1st round. And Vegas, who after a bunch of trades had this roster juiced to the gills, bows out in 7 games. There are no guarantees. Now, one of the smart things Vegas did is those deals that they made were made to help them in the future as well. That's what Colorado's doing. Imagine Colorado loses in the 1st round this year, or maybe even the 2nd round, and they lose Mikko Rantanen for nothing. And you got to keep in mind, this isn't just guessing. This is a very educated guess. Check out this take from CJ, reporter Chris. Once the Avalanche determined they weren't able to extend Mikko Rantanen, they decided to capitalize on his minimal trade protection to avoid losing him for nothing. In addition to getting Necas, Drury, a 2nd, and a 4th, they freed up cap space. More to come in Colorado. Whatever that means. Listen, I think the Colorado Avalanche have earned enough respect that we can be pretty confident this is a smartly run hockey team, right? My guess is they talked to Mikko and his people, and they talked, and they talked, and they talked, and they realized we're not going to be able to do this. So instead, they got cap space, 2 very useful roster players, and 2 picks. How do you think they did? And hey, since their situations are somewhat comparable, Leafs fans who are watching this video, Mitch Marner, he's having a great season, just like Mikko Rantanen. He's a pending unrestricted free agent this summer, just like Mikko Rantanen. If you knew bringing Mitch Marner back was not an option, he is not signing here, and he's not going to do it at a number you like. It's going to be $14 million. If you knew he wasn't going to sign here, would you be satisfied with Martin Necas, Jack Drury, a 2nd round pick, and a 4th? Yeah, chew on that. Now, the Carolina Hurricanes acquire Mikko Rantanen, OMG, and Taylor Hall, and also a 6th round pick from 2022, the Chicago Blackhawks, but they didn't really. Any Hurricanes fans who are like, and we got a prospect in this deal, you'll be happy to know that Juntorp is actually putting up nearly a point per game in Sweden. And you might go, hooray! And then you find out it's the third tier league in Sweden, and you go, oh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they like him. Maybe he turns into something, but he hasn't shown much this year. He's played 3 games in Allsvenskan, which is the second league. We talked a little bit about Mikko Rantanen, and we'll talk about him a little more. Taylor Hall is what I want to talk about here. He's scoring at a hair over half a point a game this season, 9 goals in 46 games, 24 points. Again, it's the Blackhawks. What happened last year with the Boston Bruins? 16 goals, 36 points in 61 games, which is, again, it's over half a point a game. It's fine. But the Bruins end up pitching him out the door to the Chicago Blackhawks to save a little space. And it wasn't just him. I forgot how crazy this deal was. It was Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno to the Blackhawks for Alec Regula and Ian Mitchell. It was just, they were saying bye. But Taylor Hall is better than that. He's better than just, all right, let's get rid of this cap nuisance. When the Bruins were rocking it and really good 2 years ago and winning 65 games, Taylor Hall had 20 points and 61 points in a pretty healthy 81-game season. And you might go, yeah, but then what happened? The Bruins choked in the playoffs. Taylor Hall, playoff choker. His numbers are actually pretty good. His first playoff run in Boston, he had 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points in 11 games. That's not that great. The next year, he has 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points in 7 games. Is all right. Dude, in that choke against the Florida Panthers, Hall actually had 5 goals, 3 assists for 8 points in 7 games. You can hardly hang it on him. Overall, do I want to sign a player scoring just over half a point a game to a $6 million contract in free agency? No. But if I'm a contending team and we're more than halfway through the season and I think we're pretty good, do I want Taylor Hall? Yeah, sure, I'll take him. I have no doubt he's going to be pretty good for the Carolina Hurricanes. The guy who's going to be more than pretty good for the Carolina Hurricanes is Mikko Rantanen. Combining the last 4 Stanley Cup playoffs, so that's dating back to 2022, when the Colorado Avalanche won the Stanley Cup, Mikko Rantanen has the 5th best points per game in the entire NHL. And that is ahead of Nathan MacKinnon, which is barbaric. That's wild. He is supposedly the Robin to Nathan MacKinnon's Batman, and over the past 4 years, when it's mattered the most, he's outscored Batman. And if you really want to be a stickler about it, if you take out Sidney Crosby, because he's only played 6 playoff games over that time span, he's 4th! By the way, Cale Makar is somehow ahead of both Rantanen and MacKinnon. He's Bobby Orr. It's just Bobby Orr with a kid's face, that's all. Now here's the thing. The reason the Colorado Avalanche make this deal is exactly why this deal is such a massive risk for the Carolina Hurricanes. Maybe they think they can sign Mikko Rantanen to a contract extension. As of the time I'm shooting this video, they don't know that. They have no idea. You hope his countryman Sebastian Aho can maybe, put in a good word and be like, ha ha ha, and like try to get him to sign with us, But it's entirely possible you just took on Taylor Hall, gave up Martin Necas, gave up Jack Drury, gave up a 2nd and a 4th for what is only going to be 30 some odd games of Mikko Rantanen, and they could bow out in the first round as well. Now, do I think they're gonna? No. No, I don't. Here is the thing with the Carolina Hurricanes. Over the past few years, they've found a way in the first round, and they get to the second round, and sometimes they even find a way there. But what the Carolina Hurricanes have struggled with is getting over that hump, like getting into that really elite conversation. If you look at the cumulative results over the past few years, you look at the Hurricanes and go, that's like a top 5 performing team in the league, like regular season playoffs. Where do I sign up for that? How is that not elite? I kind of look at them the way I look at the 2022 Edmonton Oilers, and Avalanche fans will understand this very well. In 2022, did the Edmonton Oilers make it to the Final Four? Yes. And you could argue, hey, that gives them a 25% chance of winning the Stanley Cup. Sure. At the end of the day, you need 16 wins to win the Stanley Cup, and the Oilers that season had 8. The reason they only had 8 is they got swept by the Colorado Avalanche. So, were the Edmonton Oilers close in 2022? Yes, but no. If you need to get over the hump, you don't spend all trade deadline season trading 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th round picks out there to get guys to play in your bottom 6 and bottom pairing defensemen. You get a needle mover. You shake the foundation. You rattle a few cages. You get Mikko Rantanen. Wild to me. Wild that Rantanen was traded before either guy on the Canucks. I can't believe that. There's all kinds of rumors swirling around right now, and one thing Chris Johnston has said on the CJ show a few times, it's almost like there could be 2 trade deadlines this year. The one just before the Four Nation face-off, which starts very soon, about half a dozen games left before that for most teams. And then there's the actual trade deadline at the beginning of March. If this move happened today, we can be pretty confident the Hurricanes are out on any JT Miller, Elias Pettersson talk. What do the Colorado Avalanche have up their sleeve? Is Chicago all of a sudden going to get an influx in phone calls tomorrow from GMs thinking they can rip off Kyle Davidson? What the heck do the Vancouver Canucks do now? Because they don't have to trade either guy, but they've kind of committed to trading at least one guy. Don't look now, but the miserable New York Rangers are all of a sudden one of the hottest teams in the NHL. What do? Is this going to turn up the heat on the Leafs looking at Mitch Marner going, hey, maybe get a deal done? There are a number of fascinating situations in the NHL right now, and the trade deadline is still well over a month away. What do you think of this deal? How do you think Chicago did? How do you think Carolina did? How do you think Colorado did? And what do you think is next? Please leave a comment or several in the comment box down below. But for now, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. Lots more to come at SDPN.